bit more normal than today. The throat's still super tight. Yeah, it's so funny. I didn't get sick at all.
But he had a blood draw.
Various measurements were off the charts. And he didn't say anything. She just said, take your time.
Was it off the time before?
There are some things that are having to do with red blood cells probably than just supposed to be. It's an anemia. That's why I was being.
Scott,
That's not.
you listen for our other job. You listen to the part downloads. Do you also listen to Balanced Voices?
That's actually one area I do better in studying. Usually when I do listen to them, I'll listen to our predominant while I'm learning it, and then as I get more confident with it, I'll listen to Balanced Voices and see how I do without that part in my ear.
That's how it works. Yeah, I didn't. One more question. I don't know if you know the answer. On Tuesday, we're supposed to wear t-shirts. Am I supposed to buy one? I don't know.
Did you get emails from Tom about the performance?
Is this your stuff?
You were supposed to.
Yeah.
Are you missing a folder?
No, it just practically kept falling. Shut. I don't use it today really, I just hold it. I'm getting better at that. Yeah.
Thought Tom was going to try and send out an email to the new members about getting size and stuff, but if you haven't gotten
But I put my size online.
yeah. But I would go ahead and go to Chorus Connection, and on the resource link, fill that out because there's a spot where you can indicate need a performance t-shirt, and it'll just be a double check.
And it'll just say performance t-shirt.
I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah, I can pull it up to double check.
All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love, a love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service.
Good morning, Kansas City. How is everybody? Good morning. I'm Scott Hensey, and I'm a member of All Souls. Whether you're here in the room or watching online, we're very glad you're here today. Your presence enriches all of us and our time together. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Our tradition is a large tent with room for many beliefs and approaches to the questions that matter. That said, our values of inclusion, compassion, and justice are strong and hold us together. We seek to build the beloved community, making room for everyone and creating a world where everyone's needs are met. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you're welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. You may be new here this morning. Welcome. I hope that you have visited the welcome table in the lobby where you can learn more about our congregation. And you're in luck today. After the service, we will share a Sunday Plus lunch with the Cassidy sisters, always a crowd pleaser. Proceeds from this meal will support our hunger outreach team's work. Visitors, you are welcome to pick up a ticket at the welcome table and enjoy lunch on us. During and after the lunch today, the board will lead a budget town hall to keep members appraised of their attention to the budget this year.
October. It's October. A few days late, I am going to wish you Shana Tova and celebrate that the Jewish community Kol Ami was in this space celebrating Rosh Hashanah this week. October is LGBTQIA+ History Month. It is a month to set aside time and actually learn about queer history. The movements and the leaders that brought about various forms of queer rights. The queer and trans folks who have made history, whether because of or in spite of their identities. I task you to do one internet search this month to learn something new about LGBTQIA+ history or historical figures who are or were queer. Learn from the stories you do not know, continuing the work of holding your heart open to queer folks of all kinds. I am the Reverend Erin Dajka Holley. I serve as the lead minister here at All Souls. And our opening words are slightly adapted from those of Otto O'Connor. On a holy night in 1969, in an inn, also known as a bar, called the Stonewall Inn, a basement, which had no running water nor safe fire exits, queer people of many colors and kinds danced together. For it was the only place where they were allowed to dance, at least permitted to, by the mafia who ran the inn. In those days, it was common for the police to frequent this inn, not to join in the dance, the underground celebration, but to send the dancers home and make arrests. When they would arrive, the lights would go on, the people would be lined up, and then all those in drag, all those who were trans, all those without proper identification, they were arrested and taken into custody. But on that holy night, that early morning of June 28th, as the people said, "Not tonight," as they called them to line up, the trans women refused to go. And as the police began to beat and arrest them, and as the people spilled out from the bar onto the street, Christopher Street, a crowd grew to watch. And then, as trans women, lesbians, and gay men were getting arrested, a yell came from the crowd: "Gay power!" And as a trans woman was shoved, she shoved back, and the crowd began throwing bottles at the wagon, and suddenly it erupted. For once, the people didn't line up. For once, the people said, "No more, we've had enough." It was almost as if that night, being pulled out of the darkness of the underground at Stonewall Inn, one too many times, they said, "I'm ready to be seen." On that holy night, when the power of the oppressed rippled through the streets of New York, when queer people said no more, our world would never be the same. 55 years ago, it was illegal to be gay, to be trans, to dance and to love and to celebrate. And now, only 55 years later, here we are, marking the joy of this change at church. Gay and straight together, queer and straight together, trans and cis together, all in this together. And so, as we hear these stories of life and love and defiance and celebration, let us also remember and pay tribute to our movement ancestors, many of them trans women of color who led the first rebellion that night. We celebrate this history as Pride in June, the anniversary of that riot at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, a holy night. And so we celebrate the history. We remember everything that happened then that could bring us to a point of legal protections and marriage equality. May this history inspire us in these uncertain times that while the work is not done, we will continue to advocate, protect, and love our LGBTQIA+ siblings in this community and beyond. Let us worship together.
We light this chalice to remember the light within, to know that the hunger we feel inside is an echo of inner wisdom that wants something more for us, for others, for this weary yet wonderful world. Please stand as you are able and join in the affirmation of our covenant. Then remain standing as we join together in song. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its all. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
I see that we have, ooh, wow, I'm live. All right. I see that we have a few younger people with us, so I invite the younger people and the young at heart forward. You can sit on the carpet, and if you are young at heart, there are chairs in the front. There are always chairs in the front if anyone ever feels like sitting in the front. I have a book to share with you. It is called More Than Words. And the subtitle is So Many Ways to Say What We Mean. It's by Roz McLean. Nathan doesn't say very much. When his classmates call out the answers or say, hey, or that's mine, or vanilla, please. He just listens. He has a lot on his mind, though. He is thinking about how many puddles there are outside and how much he loves digging in the schoolyard when it rains. You might think that talking is the only way to say something. Well, it is one way. Tamara loves to talk. When she's happy, she says, "I'm happy." And when she's sad, she tells us she's sad. But have you noticed someone like Madeline, who shows how she feels when she smiles, or cries, or laughs? Her face says it all. You can say things in other ways too. Lan likes to write. So does Carlos. He writes in Braille. Or you could type like McKenna, or spell S-P-E-L-L like Raheem, or use sign language like Fatima and Mateo. What's up? Fine. You could point and press like Tanvir. You can show what you want when you choose, like Jaya. And even when you do use your voice, you can do more than talk. Kamal likes to sing. Ada, Kalia, and Eli make sounds, while Mia repeats. May can't always think of the words, but she can move. You can express yourself when you play, like Talia, and build, like Sean, Imani, and Jennifer. You might want to show your spark style and pizzazz with what you wear, like Taylor. Or your imagination with painting and drawing, like Jordan, Maria, and Nam. Someone might have an idea and dig and dig and dig and search and gather. They might create something new. If Nathan is quiet, how do you think you know if he wants to be friends? Do you think that you could figure out a way, even though he's quiet, to listen? He actually knows how to say a lot. So there are lots of ways that each of us can communicate. It doesn't have to be words. We can use our bodies, we can use our hands, we can write, all of these different ways. And so keep that in mind as you meet new kids, as you meet new people, that maybe they communicate in ways differently than you do. But if you pay attention, you can know what they're trying to tell you. Thank you for this time together, and you will now go with Melanie to your classes. Let us sing them out. Go now in peace.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jane Gilbreth, a longtime member of this church. Now you know I'm all here to ask you for money. But first I'm going to tell you why I think it's important. Every Thursday, a group of people come here to make hundreds of sandwiches. Then on Saturday, another group of people cook a hot, nourishing meal and take it to Washington Park, where each week, in the heat of summer, in the rain, or cold of winter, over 600 food-insecure people are fed a good meal and given a bag of sandwiches to take with them for later. I don't help with this, but my church does. 15 or more people from this church volunteer at Carver Elementary School, where they tutor kids that need a little extra help, chaperone field trips, and help support the staff. I'm not part of this, but my church is. I'm not one of the people who come on Thursday morning to knit, crochet afghans for nursing home patients and hats and mittens for needy children. My church does this. There's a group that meets here on Sunday after church to help immigrants make sense of the English language. My church does that. My church provides below market value space for Kolami, a small Jewish congregation, to meet, Peaceworks, and agnostic AAs. My church makes a difference in this community. Like many of you, my contribution to All Souls comes out of my bank account every month with no extra thought about it. It just happens. Magic. But when I walk in here on Sunday mornings, I am filled with gratitude that this place exists. I am overwhelmed by the love and, yes, hope that there is a better world possible for my great-grandchildren. My way of expressing that gratitude is to put something in the collection plate. Every week, sometimes it's a 5, sometimes 20, I invite you to do the same, or write a check, or do it electronically, something other than your pledge. I guarantee it makes you feel good. The morning offering will now be gratefully received. was fine. Please join me as we dedicate our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Our first reading today is from Kitchen Table Wisdom by Rachel Naomi Raymond. Real stories take time. We stopped telling stories when we started to lose that sort of time. Pausing time, reflecting time, wondering time. Life rushes us along, and few people are strong enough to stop on their own. Most often, something unforeseen stops us, and it is only then we have the time to take a seat at life's kitchen table, to know our own story and to tell it, to listen to other people's stories, to remember that the world, the real world, is made of just such stories. The best stories have many meanings. Their meaning changes as our capacity to understand and appreciate meaning grows. Revisiting such stories over the years, one wonders how one could not have seen their present meaning all along, all the time, unaware of what meaning a future reading might hold. Like the stories themselves, all these meanings are true. We carry with us every story we have ever heard and every story we have ever lived, filed away at some deep place in our memory. We carry most of these stories unread, as it were, until we have grown the capacity or the readiness to read them. When that happens, they may come back to us filled with a previously unsuspected meaning. It is almost as if we've been collecting pieces of greater wisdom, sometimes over many years, without knowing.
Our next reading by American poet Joyce Sutphin, I almost feel like was written as a reminder to me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I find that the older I get, the more I have to remind myself that true listening to another person is not impatiently waiting for them to shut up so you can talk. It's called How to Listen. Tilt your head slightly to one side. Lift your eyebrows expectantly. Ask questions. Delve into the subject at hand or let things come randomly. Don't expect answers. Forget everything you've ever done. Make no comparisons. Simply listen. Listen with your eyes as if the story you're hearing is happening right now. Listen without blinking, as if a move might frighten the truth away forever. Don't attempt to copy anything down. Don't bring a camera or a recorder or your cell phone. Because this is your chance to listen carefully. Your whole life might turn on what you hear.
There's a good reason, well, many good reasons, but one in particular why I am not a chaplain. Listening is hard. You just heard Joyce Sutphin's instructions on how to listen, and those instructions are clear in their subtext. Listening is hard. Forget everything you've ever done. Make no comparisons. Simply listen. Listen without blinking, as if a move might frighten the truth away forever. Yes, poetry is hyperbole to some extent, pushing us to stretch into the depth of its meaning, even beyond what is technically true, in order to find the deeper truth. And this poem's truth is that we must all listen deeper than we can imagine, at the same time that it clearly takes all of our attention and energy to do. Or at least it takes all of my attention and energy to do. Because I've actually had all of the experiential training necessary to pursue professional chaplaincy. And it was during that full-time chaplain residency for a year that I learned just how much of my energy it takes for me to truly listen to people. I've mentioned before that I'm neurodivergent. My brain is wired up differently from most people's in a way that's called autism, and so it is extra hard for me to listen in the ways that most people want to be listened to. I need to make more eye contact than I find comfortable. I need to sit still, keeping my whole body focused on the other person and not stimming. I need to concentrate on what they are saying on multiple levels, the words themselves, the meaning behind them, the needs that are being expressed, and the emotions present in the person's words and body. None of this comes naturally to me, and so I put all of my energy into doing these things so the other person can feel fully heard and cared for. And as hard as it is, it's worth it. Because each of us has so much we can learn by listening. Truly listening to those around us. This is your chance to listen carefully. Your whole life might depend on what you hear. Of course, the act of listening isn't only about what you can get out of the person's experience and their words. It is a gift, an important indication that the person you're listening to matters. David Augsburger said, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. I'm going to read that again. Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Have you experienced this? The feeling of being heard, of having someone put the effort into truly understanding what you are trying to express. How does that feel? I feel it as a warmth, as if in the moment I am being held by invisible arms at the same time that a weight lifts off of me. That thing I had been holding so close that troubled me is no longer just mine to hold. It has been taken from my arms or my shoulders, and I feel that deeper truth that I am not alone. A therapist once shared with me a chart of 8 emotions, and with the emotions there were indications of what that emotion might mean or signal. And the one that came through most poignantly to me was that anger arises with the need to be heard. Think about it for a moment. A time when you were really angry. What did you deep down need in that moment? Really? Was it to be understood, to be heard? Fred Rogers said that listening is where love begins. And I hear this as the call to be the person who lives in love by expressing love, by listening, even if it's hard, even if it doesn't come naturally. It is worth the effort to love deeply by listening deeply. And that's why stories matter. When we listen to others' stories, we engage in care. We try to understand. We connect more deeply than we can with superficial conversation. And in that moment, we receive the gift of that person's tale, and through the hearing, we are changed. Rachel Naomi Remen is right to point out that we rarely tell stories anymore. We don't gather to talk about our lives, to share and to receive, to know the depth of one another through the telling of the stories. The stories only come out when something unforeseen stops us from the daily grind and the superficial. We tell stories when someone dies. We tell stories when babies are born. We tell stories when something from outside disrupts our daily life. Illness, a disaster, a tragedy. Those moments when our built reality breaks down, we tell our stories to remind ourselves who we are. And we listen to the stories of others to find deeper wisdom and to feel through their words that we are not alone. I must ask, though, how is it that we do not make time for the stories in our daily life? Yes, we're busy. And our minds are running a mile a minute while our bodies are in high gear with adrenaline. Yes, When we're so busy with everything around us, it feels impossible to stop. But what does it mean that we only stop to listen to others' stories, to tell our own stories when something from outside breaks into the grind? Take the time to listen. I'm telling myself this as well because I suffer from the grind and doing too much all at the same time and not paying attention as much as anyone else. So stop. Intentionally stop and take the time to listen. Follow Joyce Sutphen's instructions. Ask questions. Delve into the subject at hand or let things come randomly. Don't expect answers. Listen with your eyes, as if the story you are hearing is happening right now. And that first piece, ask questions, it's a hard one for me, but I think it's crucial for listening and hearing someone's stories. You can set aside time. Schedule into your busy calendar for listening and hearing and telling stories. There are still spots available in our small groups, which are designed to reflect deeply and tell and listen to one another's stories. I would love for everyone here to be in a small group, to make that time to stop and listen and build deep connections with others in the church. Talk to Beth Andes or email small groups at allsoulskc.org. My father likes telling the story of when I was a toddler, taking toddler swimming lessons. It was called Bubbles class in the 1980s. During class, my father was right there on the deck while I was in the water, would cling to the side of the pool, or he would hold me in the water. And during one class, the instructor told the parents to gently push their toddler's head under the water for a few seconds and then let them back up. The way my father told the story was that I had rage in my eyes when he let me up, and I said, "Don't you ever do that again, Daddy." He said that he was shaken by my vehemence. I heard this story over and over again through my childhood and into my adulthood. My memory of that moment may only be pieced together from my memory of essentially being in that class, of being in that swimming pool, of my father right there on the deck. But mostly, my memory is his telling of the story. I don't know whether I actually remember when this happened, but I know his story. And the images are clear in my mind. His story formed my memory. The earliest memory of my asserting myself and drawing a strong boundary belonged to my father more than it belongs to me. It was his story. Now, I always thought of that story as demonstrating my own strength, my independence. It was a moment that separated my needs from the desires of my father, and I've held it close to me that I would challenge him in that way when I was merely a toddler. It was a moment of strength. I hear that story differently now. As Remen says, the meaning changes as our capacity to understand and appreciate meaning grows. Now, I hear the laughter in my father's voice when he quotes tiny Erin's assertion. All those years, he thought it was cute that I had challenged him. He wasn't really telling of my strength. He told a story of an adorable child playing at strength that he knew she didn't really have. I think I've always known that this was part of the story, but I only recently acknowledged it. My assertiveness was cute. And this isn't the only time that I've stepped back from an experience or a story and found in it a demeaning tone, a hint at misogyny. I understand the world differently with this new understanding of my or my father's story. But even that is the work of rethinking the stories we are told, which is imperative to deeper personal growth. The story that I grew up with was that as a girl I could do anything, that the need for feminism was in the past, that I'm just the same in capability as the boys, and that I should expect to be treated with dignity and respect. So I lived my childhood believing that story and using that lens to understand my experiences. So through that lens, I didn't experience misogyny. It didn't exist anymore. And now, I look at the stories of my life through a different lens that recognizes the misogyny I have experienced, that sits under the surface. It won't stop me, but I know that it is there. As I better understand my own story and the stories of people assigned female at birth around me. Same story, new meaning. And I will probably not tell it in my Father's words again, but in my new understanding of the story. I will tell it to claim my strength as fully my own, even in the face of my Father's mocking, including that detail, because acknowledging it actually makes me even stronger. And I encourage you to find new meaning in the stories that have defined you. What is there that's deeper and more powerful than what you've previously considered? How does this meaning change the way that you tell the story? Because when we pay attention not only to the story, but how we tell it, what pieces we focus on, what pieces we diminish or leave out, our tone, our phrasing, the meaning shifts. I'm reminded of taking classes on Hebrew and Christian scriptures in college and seminary and learning that the authors told the stories in very specific ways to uplift specific meanings. This is most notable in the Gospels, where each of the four authors tell essentially the same story, but in different ways and to different intentional ends. We can choose how we tell our own stories. We can choose the meaning, acting as intentional authors of ourselves, since our stories are the neural pathways that define who we are. I'm going to take this a step further to all souls. We have the stories that we tell about our church. Some of those stories have been told in the same way for years and years, stories that define who we are and what this church is. What do we focus on in our congregational stories? And what might we choose to focus on? What can we learn about our church through our stories? What stories do we want to tell visitors and new members that show who we are? I've mentioned before that we have entered a time of intentional transition, when together as a church we figure out who we are, who we want to be, where we are going, and what we need to get there. The first step that I will bring to you is this process of storytelling, considering the history of All Souls. We are going to ask who we have been. We are going to tell the stories how we've often told them and wonder aloud about what those stories mean about our church. What stories should we remember and celebrate? What stories do we have of challenge and hardship, loss and hurt? How do we tell those stories with intention and care? This is our work. We will speak the stories aloud and through them remember who we were, how we have changed over more than a century and a half, and who we as a church community are now. Our stories matter. They're not trivial or without meaning, for all of our meaning in life emerges from stories. Listen to the stories. Experience them deeply and make real connections. Tell your stories and learn about yourself through them. There is truth right there in the stories of our lives. We will all grow through the stories. May it be so. Please rise as you will and join in singing hymn number 112, Do You Hear? We release this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Tell your stories and know yourself. Hear the stories and know the world. Change the stories as you change. The power to shape ourselves and the world rests in the stories. So tell them. Listen to them. Be.